Right, everybody, it looks like it's 12 o'clock right on the nose here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining today's webinar. Really, the purpose of today's webinar is to be kind of short and sweet and pack as much knowledge and information as we can here in the next 10 minutes or so. So today's topic is going to be find the sneaky fees in your processing statement. I say this is a trend that we're starting to see out there in the industry, and we just kind of wanted to pass some of that information along to other businesses here in Wisconsin. So just a real quick introduction. Myself, I am Tom Kelly. I am our strategic partner manager here based in Madison. Wind River is a family-owned merchant services credit card processing company, again, multi-generational family-owned business. Really, our big thing has always been the customer service and customer knowledge, passing along what we know to our customers, to other businesses in the state. I think a lot of times our industry seems like it should be pretty cut and dry, pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of little details and a lot of things that ultimately can impact your overall program. So when we have that knowledge, we also want to share that with folks that can benefit from it as well. So that's just a little bit about me, a little bit about Wind River, and we're going to jump into some fees that we're starting to see out there in the industry. I think the big thing that we always see, a question we get is, what's your rate? A lot of times there's somewhere where you can see a rate or there's a fee structure, but some of these added fees or fees that are snuck in can really ultimately impact if the program that you're in is competitive. It may have started competitive, but really over the last few years, we've seen a lot of processors get pretty sneaky with some of the names of their fees. And so we're going to look at some of those today. So the first fee here, VI or Visa Commercial Interchange, IC Interchange Savings Adjustment Fee. Savings adjustment fee sounds like a great thing, sounds like you should be saving money. But as you can see here in the little red box, that's a fee just like everything else. And this fee in particular, you can see was for this customer, they processed $200 that qualified for the savings adjustment fee. Of that $200, they were billed $101. So 50% of what they accepted on that card was being billed as a interchange savings fee. So again, most businesses, if you're paying 50% of what you bring in, you're probably losing money on that sale. What a lot of processors are doing is really kind of adding this as a tack-on fee. For this customer, it's $1,200 a year additional that they're paying outside of that quote-unquote rate that they were promised. So this is something that we see. Again, it mentions Visa, it mentions savings. It looks like it's probably a legitimate fee. To the average business owner or average finance person, they might not catch this. But since Wind River looks at these statements daily, this is something that we're really starting to see. This type of statement is a first data statement or a Fiserv statement. There are a lot of companies that sell on this platform. So if you look at your statement and this kind of looks like the type of statement that you have, look in the other fees. See if you have either a Visa commercial card interchange assessment savings fee or MasterCard Discover. A lot of times, if you're taking commercial cards, they're going to try to ding you here as well, really on top of the card brand fees that you're already paying for some of these commercial card rates. The next fee, this is a Heartland Payments statement. I'd say similar to what you're going to see for other global payments companies. Global Payments acquired Heartland, TSYS, now Evo. So this is something, this is a Heartland statement, but really kind of something we're seeing across that platform. This specific customer was all card not present, so never accepting a card in person. You can see really at the top here, their discount rate or their processing fee above the card brand fees was 0.55% or 50 basis points and 4 cents per transaction. Now for this merchant, that's a really competitive rate. That's really probably where they should be. Now what's happened in the last year or so that they've noticed is this non-EMV assessment fee has been added. Now in this case, it was about 90% of their volume that they process, so that the fee's not being applied to everything, but still it's 100 basis points or really double their markup that they were seeing previously. So in this case, their processing fees are basically going up a full percent, while their quote unquote rate has stayed the same. This fee has added $140 a month in fees, upwards of $2,000 a year. And a lot of times when we see cost savings for customers, it is because of things like this, these sneaky fees that have been added, post signing up, or in this case, kind of post merger with Global Payments. Again, it's written in a way, non-EMV assessment fee. Kind of sounds like a legitimate fee, for folks that are looking at 12 of these statements a year. We're again, Wind River's looking at 12 of these a day, and we know what's a fee and what's kind of one of these sneaky fees. So again, adding a full percent to most of your credit card volume is really going to make your program uncompetitive and in a sneaky way. Now, sticking with the statement, kind of the third fee, kind of that same theme, this non-EMV program fee. Again, $25, a couple $100 a month that this customer's paying. Again, EMV cards are the chip cards. In a card not present environment, chip cards should have no impact. Whether they're inserting the chip or not, it doesn't matter since the card is not there. So again, it's just really kind of a way to add, again, about $2,000 a year in fees to this customer, to what otherwise was a very competitive program about a year ago. So it's sneaky fees like this that can really start to add up. Moving on to the next fee here. Really the way that our industry works is the card companies, or the processors, like Wind Rivers of the world, we are paying Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express on your behalf throughout the month, and then take the fees out at the end of the month. That's what's called monthly discount. Now, there are very few processors, I'd say about 2% of the processors out there, that are going to take your fees out daily. So let's say you do $1,000 in sales that day, you're going to see, $962.08 deposited, and they're going to take your fees out every single day. So you can imagine that can really become a nightmare from an accounting standpoint. So I'd say monthly discount is really what I'd call the industry standard. Very unique. I see it once or twice a year where folks are seeing those fees taken out daily. So in this case, this customer is being charged $20 a month in addition to their other fees for their processor to basically act like everyone else is. Again, $240 a year, just additional little fees that, on top of that rate, where that rate can be lower, but again, they can kind of fluff some of these fees in to really kind of boost some of their margin, and it's really straight profit for them at this point, kind of coming at your bottom line's expense. And the last fee, again, kind of sticking with this statement, something we're seeing on these statements, we're also seeing some of this on some of those global statements as well, a risk assessment fee of 5 basis points or 0.05%. In this case, that's adding another $44 or so a month. Really what this is different processors have different ways of managing their risk. In this case, this processor probably has some more risky merchants in their portfolio. And really, instead of pricing those individual merchants accordingly, they're really kind of spreading the risk out across all of their customers. Instead of charging that customer another 50 or 75 basis points extra, they're just spreading 5 basis points across their portfolio. So really, this customer, which is a low risk customer, is really kind of paying a penalty for this processor having other risky merchants in their portfolios. So I think that's also kind of brings up the importance of underwriting, how your processor monitors that. And again, in this case, 5 basis points on top of the fees that they're paying, and on top of the quote unquote, what I would call rate that was promised to them. So again, just to kind of recap, all of these scenarios, the fees were actually transparent, which is typically a good thing. We see a lot of statements where everything's kind of bundled together and there's no transparency there. When it's bundled together, it's really meant to go up. It's really in the processor's favor if you can't see what you're paying and why you're paying for. There's a reason they're not showing you that. I'd say the companies we looked at have all been transparent, but they're kind of adding some of these sneaky fees again that to the untrained eye look like legitimate fees, but are really padding their margin and making fees uncompetitive. Again, the question we get all the time is the what's your rate? And again, in all these scenarios that we just looked at, there's a rate and then there's these additional fees. So really when you're looking at your overall program, the only rate that's going to matter and really where you're going to see over time, have sneaky fees been added is taking your total fees divided by your total sales. Take a statement from September 2022 and look back at September 2021. When you divide the fees by the sales, is that number the same or has it gone up? If it's gone up, see if you can look in that statement and understand, have fees been added, have fees changed? And if you have questions or if you want to have us take a look at it, again, that's something that we do for businesses at no charge. We're really happy to dig into that and kind of give you our best assessment of what's going on in your program and with those statements. Again, reading the fine print on the statements. I think that's another thing in my 8 years that I've really looked at when I'm looking at a prospect statements. A lot of times, if there is going to be a pricing change or an additional fee, it's going to be mentioned in that fine print, the size 3 font at the beginning or the end of the statement. A lot of times what we're also starting to see is the quote unquote kind of here's a product that you're going to get. It's going to be a free trial for 30 days. It's on you to call us and cancel. I would say most of the customers we talk to really don't look at statements for one reason or another. One, statements used to come in the mail. Now pretty much every company's doing them electronically. Getting in to get the statement, if you forget the password, a lot of times you get to call these big call centers. You're on hold for a half an hour. A lot of folks just don't have the time to do that. I know I just met with a gentleman in northern Wisconsin, same thing. He just didn't have the time to call his processor. I sat on hold for a half an hour in his business. We talked to the processor. They wanted to charge him an additional $5 to get access to his statements. When we finally did get access to his online statements, he was overpaying by about $12,000 a year. He had felt that his fees were going up, but since he hadn't looked at the statements, he didn't really know why. And even looking at the statement, he said, Tom, I really wouldn't have been able to tell you why it changed. These all look like legitimate fees to me. So that's the important part of looking at a statement. Another thing, contracts and pricing. Wind River is an at-will company. We don't lock our customers in the contract with very few exceptions for some of our larger companies. With those companies, those are locked in fees. I think there's a misconception though with the rest of the industry where you sign a contract that fee is going to be locked in or that rate is going to be locked in. In most cases, we see those fees after the first few months go up, and you're going to have to pay a buyout to get away from those processors, and you really have no recourse to have them lower their fees since it is in the fine print that they can raise those fees. So if all possible, stay away from signing a contract unless you're processing in the tens of millions of dollars. I think at that point, that's where you can leverage a contract for lower fees. And then again, recent mergers, if you've noticed the name of your processor changing or got notification that your processor has been acquired or merging, I'd say that's a red flag that your fees are going to change. I think in every merger that we've seen here in the last, in my time, 8 years, anytime there's a merger, fees are going to go up. We've seen that with TSYS and Heartland through the Global Payments acquisition, with First Data, WorldPay. Really, there's a large dollar amount that was put on the table to buy that company, and a lot of times it's going to be on those customers to really raise revenue, and the best way to raise revenue is raise pricing. So if you've noticed that your processors change names or getting acquired, again, something to definitely keep your eye on a recent statement. With that, I know there's a chat box here. I'm happy to connect individually after this, or if anyone has a question and wants to type in a question, happy to answer it. And if not, here's my contact information if you want to email me on your individual situation or have me look at a statement. Again, I'm happy to do that. I'll give it a few minutes or 30 seconds or so just to see if there are any questions. All right, with that, I'm not seeing any questions. So again, thank you for joining today. I know when we close out the webinar here, there's going to be a quick pop-up on your screen. We want to continue to do webinars like this. So if there's topics that you'd like to hear more about, we're definitely interested in hearing what you're interested in hearing about, so we can either answer the question for you or put on another event like this. So again, really appreciate your time today. And if there's anything that myself or Wind River can do to help in the future, please don't hesitate to reach. We're here to help. Thanks. Take care.